I did a film with an absolute idiot of a co-star. And this human being was being so insecure and angry because this person couldn't get the scenes out. And I think I was so vulnerable and comfortable that I got screamed at. And I would cry walking off set. This person would literally look at me in front of the whole crew and say, "You call yourself an actor, this is what I have to work with. What is this?" And I stood there just breaking. This happens. But because this person was number one on a call sheet, there was no safety net for me. So no one had my back. And I remember the next day I walked on and I said, "You get off my set." This is the first time I've ever spoken. I remember being so scared. And I looked at this person and I said, "You can F off. I'm going to work towards a tennis ball. I never want to see you again." And then I remember the producers came up and said, "You can't do this to number one. We have to let this person be on set." And I said, "But the person can turn around and I can act to the back head."
Wow.
Celebs are teaming up to expose how Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds scammed them, and the allegations are exploding beyond control. A growing chorus from the Deadpool and Wolverine camps is stepping forward to slam Ryan Reynolds for his overbearing control on set. Cast and crew members from these franchises claim that Reynolds steamrolled projects, taking over creative decisions with a toxic my way or the highway attitude. Fans have been quick to call his behavior utterly shameless and a betrayal of Hollywood trust. Meanwhile, Blake Lively's past is coming back with a vengeance. Receipts are emerging from as far back as 2018, when she was only supposed to play the lead in the film The Husband's Secret, but somehow ended up credited as the executive producer. And it doesn't stop there. Small creators dating back to 2014 are now speaking up, alleging that she exploited their designs and ghosted them once she got what she wanted. Let's just say that Blake and Ryan's cute couple act is so dead. I wouldn't be surprised if Netflix made a true crime documentary about it. As y'all are about to find out, the messy, never-ending feud with Justin Baldoni is just the appetizer, because while the couple has been out here acting wholesome, they've allegedly been stealing people's work, running fake promises, and playing mind games like a toxic duo from hell. And just like that, the funny husband and classy wife image they built is completely shattered. We're talking receipts from creatives, industry insiders, and even some of their own so-called friends, all painting the same ugly picture. Y'all, there is a lot to unpack, so grab all the snacks you can, turn your phone on Do Not Disturb, and let's discuss the nicest couple in Hollywood who might just be the pettiest scammers in the game. And they finally got exposed for it.
Blake Lively's Instagram followers have dropped from 45.2 million to 44.9 million since the 17th of January this year.
You'd be surprised to find out that Blake's highlight reel of bad decisions started so long ago. Let's rewind back to 2014. In 2014, when some of y'all were still watching Paw Patrol, Blake decided to launch Preserve, a painfully out-of-touch lifestyle site selling ridiculously expensive candles, awkwardly rustic home goods, and random handmade stuff that nobody asked for.
Believe it or not, the biggest failure of Blake Lively's career is not this moment. It's not even this moment. That's saying something, because this movie got a 5 on Rotten Tomatoes out of 100. The biggest stumble in Blake's career was this, and I'm gonna need you to watch the first 10 seconds of the intro video. Just tell me, ballpark, what you think it's about, because you're not gonna guess it. Preserve was Blake Lively's attempt at a goop pivot.
An article attempting to explain what Preserve was about read, "If you read the articles, all we can gather is that it was a brand. Literally, that was the main function of the company. It was a lifestyle brand that made money by selling overpriced hipster knickknacks to millennials. And it wasn't successful." Anyways, when Preserve flopped in 2015, Blake swore it was because it was too ahead of its time and launched too early, only for the receipts to tell a different story. Word on the street is that she was allegedly ordering samples from small creators under fake names, copying designs bar for bar, and then ghosting original artists like they were invisible.
28-year-old actress will take down Preserve on October 9th. Blake launched the site in July 2014, but tells Vogue she doesn't want to continue with something that her and her team are, quote, not proud of. She goes on to explain, quote, "We launched the site before it was ready, and it never caught up to its original mission. It's not making a difference in people's lives, whether superficially or in a meaningful way."
And just when you thought that Blake's sticky fingers were only snatching from Etsy shops, plot twist, there was another situation involving scripts. Now, this next part is one of those Hollywood whispers that never quite made it to the big gossip pages, so take it with a pinch of salt. Word is that back in 2017, Blake was set to star in CBS Films' thriller, The Husband husband's secret. Word is that drama started when an indie screenwriter popped up online claiming her script had been passed around Hollywood years earlier and somehow ended up reworked into the movie that Blake was now starring in. Mainstream outlets like Deadline, Variety, and The Hollywood Reporter didn't touch the story, and honestly back then, questioning A-listers was practically forbidden territory, which could explain why this story is almost non-existent. The gag is, this story isn't so far-fetched, especially after an old interview clip recently resurfaced where Blake straight up brags about hijacking projects from directors and producers like it's cute. And just to confirm, I did a quick check. Not only was Blake the lead in The Husband's Secret, she also conveniently gave herself the title of executive producer. And if you know how Hollywood works, you already know that half these celebs slap executive producer on their resume, not because they actually do the work, but because it looks fancy and boosts their portfolio. So, without even solid evidence, it still feeds into the same messy pattern people have been calling out for years, that Blake stays eating off of other people's plates, a behavior that is nowhere more evident than on the set of Gossip Girl, where her co-stars took all the heat from her behind-the-scenes drama and manipulative tactics. Blake's first victim was Penn Badgley. Y'all, the way that Blake treated this man on the Gossip Girl set is criminal. Before Penn even got a chance to settle in, people were already side-eyeing him because Blake had been running her mouth behind the scenes, convincing everyone to ice him out. Not because he did anything wrong, but because she just didn't like him. Imagine! It literally took weeks for the cast to realize that Penn was actually cool, and by then the damage was done. Imagine their shock when Blake and Penn ended up dating for 3 years before Blake dumped him and ran straight into Ryan Reynolds' arms.
One thing Blake Lively loves to do is tell on herself. So in a newly resurfaced interview from 2009 in Glamour magazine, Blake Lively opened up about how she tried to poison the cast of Gossip Girl against Penn Badgley. So we now know that she had Mr. Armie Hammertime fired from Gossip Girl after just 4 episodes, and now it appears she tried to do the same thing to Penn Badgley. Apparently she wasn't too pleased with Mr. Badgley when he was first cast. She didn't like the choice, so she tried to taint the rest of the cast against him, but once they realized what a good guy he was, she realized that she lost the battle.
But here's where it gets extra messy. After Blake married Ryan and got all these producers worshiping the ground she walked on, Penn's career took a nosedive. A lot of people in the industry low-key blacklisted him just because Blake wasn't cool with him anymore. Does that sound familiar? It should, because that's exactly what happened with Justin Baldoni and the It Ends With Us cast. After Justin leaked those spicy messages from Blake, people are convinced that Blake might have caught feelings for Baldoni and started behaving like a bitter, jilted lover when Baldoni did not reciprocate. And just like the Gossip Girl cast, her It Ends With Us co-stars like Brandon Sklenar and author Colleen Hoover have been distancing themselves from Blake lately. Allegedly, they finally saw the whole picture and realized Blake had played them too. Oh, and if y'all missed it, I already got a whole video up on Penn Badgley calling out Blake for ruining his career, so run and catch that if you haven't already. That being said, let's focus on other cast members, because if you think Penn had it tough, wait till you hear how Blake did Leighton Meester dirty. Y'all, the way that these two were pretending to be besties on screen, but apparently their interactions behind the scenes was giving oil and water.
There was an article recently saying that Leighton and I were frenemies. And it's
frenemies. Is that the new term, frenemies?
Yeah, we're friends, but we're also enemies. And it's they see our characters on the show, and they want that to be true in a sense. I think they want everybody's characters in real life to emulate that. And it's really strange because they always want to pit women against each other. You don't hear about like Penn and Chase hating each other and being jealous and competitive. So it's very silly, but you know, we all do get along very well, and
One thing about Blake, she will always pull the gender card. According to the show's executive producer, Joshua Safran, Blake and Leighton were friends but not friendly, which is Hollywood code for they couldn't stand each other. And if you've ever watched their awkward press interviews, the tension was right there.
Makes more sense when you're watching a show that there's not an obvious choice between good and evil, so she would seem like the obvious choice, but she's also got, you know, flaws as well. But I think I'm just brunette because of the books.
And everyone knows blondes are nicer anyway.
Over there.
Moment by me.
Then there's Armie Hammer, who played Gabriel on Gossip Girl, who subtly but very clearly hinted that Blake was the reason he left the show early, and honestly, who is surprised at this point?
Let me just say, that was a tough show to film, and I didn't end up actually filming all of the episodes I was supposed to because it was such a tough film.
Really? Literally, you said, get me out of this.
It was also like, get him out of here. Yeah,
really?
Yeah.
So it just literally was that. Whose love interest were you?
I was Blake Lively's love interest.
You were?
Yeah.
Okay, well
Sounds
then,
like she was the problem.
It sure does, Chelsea.
And speaking of Blake's greatest hits in the diva department, we absolutely cannot skip over her beef with Anna Kendrick because that is a whole circus. During their press tour for A Simple Favor, the tension between Blake and Anna was so thick you could cut it with a butter knife. One of the producers even said that Blake was impossible to work with. Meanwhile, Blake, being Blake, accused Anna of stealing the spotlight during promos, and people were just like, girl, please.
I've met Blake a few times through Ryan on that film.
Got it.
And thought she seemed nice, and little did I know.
Yeah. Look at the body language experts analyzing this right now. How quickly do you...
Don't touch me. Don't touch me.
Again, if you want the full scoop on how Anna Kendrick ended Blake, definitely check out my deep dive video. But for now, just know this. These are just a handful of the receipts proving Blake's nasty attitude has been on full display for years. And trust me, this isn't even the part where it gets wild. Blake's skeletons are spilling all over the floor, but y'all, Ryan's closet is equally furnished with drama. From sneaky Hollywood moves to shady business deals, the receipts are out. Turns out some of your fave celebs who have been dying to talk about it for years are finally spilling. Heads up, y'all, it is so bad you will absolutely be shocked by the time we are done.
It's really interesting. A lot of them are just not looking at him at all, even though he's standing and spraying. That's really interesting. And nobody's amused, it seems.
First up, let's talk about Tim Miller, the OG director behind Deadpool, who is on record saying that he left because of Ryan Reynolds. Now, if you always thought Ryan Reynolds was just some goofy, lovable guy, yeah, Tim's got a very different story to tell. Apparently, Ryan took over Deadpool and started treating it like it was his personal baby, and Tim was just supposed to sit there and vibe with whatever Ryan wanted. Word on the street is that Ryan wanted complete control over the whole franchise. Scripts, scenes, vibes, everything. And the second Tim started speaking up, Ryan basically said, my way or the highway. Tim eventually packed his bags and said, point blank, told Mental Health magazine, I don't mind having a debate, but if I can't win, I don't want to play. And I don't think you can negotiate every creative decision. There are so many to make. So Ryan's the face of the franchise, and he was the most important component of that by far. So if he decides that he wants control of it, then he's gonna control it. And when you got a Hollywood heavyweight like Ryan blocking every move, there wasn't much left to play for. Tim Miller wasn't the only one fed up with Ryan's antics. TJ Miller, who played Weasel in Deadpool, came through with his own experience. Now, if you know TJ, you already know that he has got a mouth on him. So unlike Tim, TJ didn't just quietly dip from Deadpool, he made sure that everyone knew it was because of Ryan. And when I say that this man would rather pass up a fat paycheck than deal with Ryan's energy again, yeah, it's that deep.
But I think after he got super famous from the first Deadpool, then things kind of changed. I think he was like, see, you guys see. And then I think I don't know. I mean, would I work with him again? No.
No.
I would not work with him
that
again.
much vitriol.
According to TJ, Ryan treated him like trash on set. And not in a haha, we're just joking way. This was straight up humiliation, no punchline attached. TJ swears he never even knew why Ryan had smoke for him, especially since he was just a side character. But after thinking it through, TJ figured it was all about Ryan's ego, and he just needed everyone to remember who the biggest star in the room was.
Everybody was like, why is Ryan doing this? And the other weird thing is, like, maybe he got, I think he's kind of an insecure dude. He's really nice, but I mean, his Twitter bio is showing you the parts of me that tested the best in focus groups.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure that he's joking.
And if you thought Ryan only had beef with the guys on set, think again, because his leading lady caught some serious smoke too. Morena Baccarin, who plays Vanessa, the literal love interest in Deadpool, went from being front and center in the movie to practically invisible in the sequel. Turns out this wasn't just a creative choice. Word on the street is her real life fallout with Ryan had everything to do with it. Apparently things got messy between them behind the scenes, and after that, Morena wasn't just cut from the spotlight in the movie, she was iced out in real life too. Now, what caused the fallout? Nobody's dropping receipts, but rumors say it could have been a fight over her shrinking role, or maybe she pushed back on some of Ryan's jokes that didn't sit right with her. Either way, challenging Ryan in his own franchise seems to be the fastest way to get yourself ghosted. When Deadpool and Wolverine started trending, Marina was nowhere to be found in the promo wave. Also, Marina stood solo during the premiere while the whole cast was all smiles around Ryan. Yeah, that silence was loud. Honestly, this whole thing is giving serious Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni at Ends With Us energy. When the power couple runs the show, you either play along or get played out.
Looks like a pattern is emerging as I found this blind item from July of 2024 stating that Ryan Reynolds completely iced out his co-star, Morena Baccarin, I think it is, and she was not included in any of the promotion for Deadpool and Wolverine. And when you think back to it, yeah, she wasn't. And if you look at the red carpet photos, she's pictured all alone by herself, not with any of the other cast. Just like what Blake did to Justin. So I wonder what the disagreement was there. I wonder if she was questioning some of the jokes in the movie. And of course, Ryan's ego couldn't take it. I'm sure there's some ironclad NDA in there and we'll never know what happened. But the promos and the videos don't lie. She wasn't in any of them with the cast. She was all alone by herself. I'm just hoping she wasn't sent to the basement.
Guys, Ryan's harsh treatment extended beyond his Deadpool co-stars and crew. Reality TV girlies got a taste too, and they lived to tell the tale. So, the Jersey Shore crew was on Watch What Happens Live with Andy, and when asked who the rudest celeb they've ever met was, a question that many usually dodge, laugh it off, or pretend everyone in Hollywood is a saint, but not this time. Sammy tried to play it cute at first, but before she could even blink, Dina went full unfiltered and dropped the name Ryan Reynolds.
Was that the celebrity Sammy was saying?
So me and Sam had our separate thing.
He's a national treasure.
And I love him. I truly love him. I love his wife. I love his wife.
Him, but he was rude.
Who? Ryan Reynolds.
Yes.
Was not great to us.
Oh, it was Ryan Reynolds.
Oh no! I love Ryan Reynolds.
She threw in a little, he wasn't great to us, but I still love Ryan and Blake to soften the blow. But if she had to say that, she already said too much. Sammy, on the other hand, tried to save it by saying maybe Ryan was just having a bad day.
I love Ryan Reynolds still. Like, I truly love Ryan Reynolds still, and I love Blake Lively. So when he didn't want to be by us.
Long story short, Ryan's nice guy image might work on social media, but clearly not everyone is buying it when the cameras stop rolling. It looks like no one is immune to the brunt of Ryan's attitude. Not even rising A-listers are left traumatized. Some actors are so shook that they won't even say names. They just tell horror stories and let us connect the dots. Case in point, Rebecca Ferguson. So Rebecca spilled about this one nightmare co-star who literally made her life hell on set. She didn't need to name drop, but the way she described it was pure chaos. This person was so deep in their insecurities that they couldn't even get their lines right, and instead of handling their mess, they took it all out on Rebecca. We're talking full-on screaming at her in front of the whole crew, calling her a trash actor like it was a casual conversation. Sis said that she was walking off set in tears, but here's the plot twist. She clapped back hard. One day she straight up told this person to get off of her set and even said that she would rather act with a tennis ball than their dusty attitude.
I did a film with an absolute idiot of a co-star. And this human being was being so insecure and angry because this person couldn't get the scenes out. And I think I was so vulnerable and comfortable that I got screamed at. And I would cry walking off set. This person would literally look at me in front of the whole crew and say, "You call yourself an actor, this is what I have to work with. What is this?" And I stood there just breaking. This happens. But because this person was number one on a call sheet, there was no safety net for me. So no one had my back. And I remember the next day I walked on and I said, "You get off my set." This is the first time I've ever spoken. I remember being so scared. And I looked at this person and I said, "You can F off. I'm going to work towards a tennis ball. I never want to see you again." And then I remember the producers came up and said, "You can't do this to number one. We have to let this person be on set." And I said, "But the person can turn around and I can act to the back head."
Wow.
The way that she reclaimed her power was iconic. After her story blew up, a bunch of actors, including The Rock himself, came through to show love, and even some of her past co-stars hit her up like, "Girl, we knew you were going through this, but this? Wild." Now, Rebecca kept the mystery name under wraps, but she made it clear that it wasn't Tom Tom Cruise or Hugh Jackman. And while she didn't mention Ryan Reynolds either, some people still got him on their suspect list based on his disturbing history. All right, moving on. Rebecca's not the only one who seems to have quietly dipped out of Ryan's circle. Even his so-called Hollywood homies are keeping their distance, and the biggest switch up has probably been Jake Gyllenhaal. Remember when Jake and Ryan were basically joined at the hip after Life? They were giving bromance goals, interviews, red carpets, all that. But all that kind of just fizzled out, and knowing how tight-lipped Jake usually is, the fact that he's actively ignoring Ryan's existence shows that something in the Hollywood water is definitely off. And trust me, the awkward vibes between Ryan and Jake is just the tip of the iceberg, because right now, Ryan's whole Hollywood resume is just one giant red flag. Like, directors and producers are out here legit shook to work with him. By now, y'all are aware that word on the street is Ryan has got a habit of stepping all over creative boundaries and turning projects into the Ryan Reynolds show, whether anyone asked for it or not. Even Quentin Tarantino, a man who has never been shy about his opinions, flat out said that Ryan can keep his Netflix movies because they're forgettable at best. Here's what he said. I mean, and I'm not picking on anybody, but apparently for Netflix, Ryan Reynolds has made $50 million on this movie, and $50 million on that movie, and $50 million on the next movie for them. I don't know what any of those movies are. I've never seen them. Have you? I haven't ever talked to Ryan Reynolds' agent, but his agent is like, well, it costs $50 million. Well, good for him that he's making so much money, but those movies don't exist in the zeitgeist. It's almost like they don't even exist. Now, that's messy, but wait until you hear about what went down with Home Alone. Ryan tried to reboot this classic, but with a twist that nobody asked for, a stoner version called Stoned Alone. The Home Alone director, Chris Columbus, called it straight up disrespectful, an insult to the art of cinema, and told Ryan to sit down and just rewatch the original instead. Even fellow actors aren't holding back. When someone compared Gerard Butler's movie Gamer to Ryan's Free Guy, Gerard said, I don't watch Ryan Reynolds movies. Outside of Ryan being messy on set, word has it that the same energy followed him straight into his love life, something that his ex-wife Scarlett Johansson knows too well. Their marriage just so happened to crumble right when Scarlett's career started popping off, landing her massive Marvel roles in Iron Man 2 and The Avengers. On the few occasions that Scarlett has dropped hints as to what happened, she said, there will always be a more successful person in a marriage, but Ryan never wanted to be the least successful one. I already covered the full scoop on how cheating, jealousy, and insecurity led Ryan Reynolds and Scarlett Johansson's divorce, but be sure to check that out if you missed it. If y'all have noticed, this insecure label isn't just coming from one place. It keeps following Ryan, from his co-stars to his directors to his exes, and at some point, you gotta wonder, if everyone is saying the same thing, can they all be lying? So at this point, it's looking really clear. Blake and Ryan might give perfect couple on the surface, but behind the scenes, the math isn't mathing. From shady career moves to relationship mess, the cracks are showing and Hollywood is no longer letting it slide. Thanks for watching, you guys. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. And don't forget to watch how Penn Badgley called out Blake for ruining his career and how Anna Kendrick ended Blake for good. Click on one and let's keep it going. See you there.